In April of 2024, me and my partner embarked on a 7-day caravan adventure through the most underrated Alps in Europe. Little did we know that we would be hit with the most unexpected weather conditions during this time. Welcome to this insane adventure through the Bavarian and Austrian Alps. Before we get into the thick of it all, there are a few things to take note of if you want to start planning your adventure. First is the best time to visit the Alps. As with most places in and around Europe, summer between the months of June to August are the best times with the sunniest weather and the longest days, but also the busiest crowds. It is also when the most attractions are open for tourists to visit, so be mindful of that depending on what you want to see. We personally visited in the shoulder month of April leading up to summer. This time of year will still be mild in its temperatures, the days will begin to get longer, and you will have high chances of seeing snow-capped mountains whilst avoiding the main bustle of crowds. After summer, we'll see the days begin to get shorter and the crowds and temperatures will settle once again. Winter is only really best for snow sports as most other things will be closed. How to get around? We hired a Volkswagen Grand California from off-campers based in Munich. The van itself was specced out even with a toilet and a shower and was incredibly spacious, modern, clean, and well thought out from the spinning driver-passenger chairs to the fly screens on the side of the van. We decided to go for this instead of a typical smaller van, as finding public toilets is not the easiest thing, as well as the fact that we were anticipating the possibility of bad weather, and we were glad we chose that indeed. If you plan on making a booking with off-campers anytime soon, just use the code displayed on the screen or in the description below to get €50 off your next order. In terms of accommodation, we stayed in our camper. The cost of getting a smaller hire car and booking hotels was almost equivalent to getting the camper van itself. However, you don't have the flexibility if you book hotels and you can't park and cook wherever you want. So you need to consider what your priorities are. Wild camping is allowed in Germany only if it is not on someone's private property, if there aren't signs saying not to camp, and if it is only for one night. So we often found secluded parking spots to set up. In Austria, we opted for a few campsites to pitch our camper, to also empty our waste and refill our water tanks, as free camping is not allowed here at all. In terms of the budget itself for 2 people for the 8 days, which included the return home day, the camper van cost around 1400 AUD, which included some added extras like bedding. Petrol was 560 AUD, parking was 120 AUD, groceries/eating out was 500 AUD, camping was 78 AUD, and activities were 600 AUD. So in total, you're roughly looking at 3,258 AUD for both people, and per person around 1,629. Just remember, this cost is a rough estimate and is based on our spending, which focus more on activities than trying food or staying at camp spots with facilities. If you want an even more detailed guide of this road trip, which includes where to stay, more things to do, a pinned Google Maps, and even a Notion travel template that will make planning this adventure easier for you, link is in the description down below. Okay, so with that all sorted, let's get started with the fun part. Day 1. This adventure begins in the heart of Munich, where we picked up our gorgeous home for the next week and packed our belongings to ready for the journey ahead. Our first stop along our drive towards the Alps was St. Coloman Church in Schwangau. Where light snowfall covered the mountain ranges. We could even see our next stop in the distance. A short walk from the parking lot in the town centre led us to the most magical fairy tale forest pathway. Leading up to the iconic Neuschwanstein Castle, and what a view it greeted us with. The There's a reason why millions flock to this castle every year and why it is so iconic. Its Disney-like appearance made even more special amongst all of the snow. If you want to take a look inside, just remember to make a booking as guided tours are mandatory, and note that no photography is allowed inside. Neighbouring this castle is the Hohenschwangau Castle, owned by the same family. This castle provides another beautiful perspective of Neuschwanstein Castle and has its own rich history to learn about. Our drive continued towards the general direction of Eibsee Lake. Where we stumbled upon Otztal Abbey, a still active monastery that you cannot miss, as we bared witness to the magnitude of the fresco adorning the ceiling of this great Baroque building. The plan for the evening was to see Zugspitze, the highest point of the German Alps. However, the weather had other plans for us. As beautiful as it was to see the snow, it also meant there was little to no visibility at all for the cable cart or the iconic Eibsee Lake. However, we still enjoyed its moody ambience. Before we had a night in, grateful that we had our big camper van to keep warm and dry. Day 2. With the weather forecast looking at its worst today, we knew that Zugspitze was not going to be an option for today either, as hopeful as we were. Out of the things that we could do when winter blizzards were forecast, we headed straight for the Highline 179, one of the longest suspension footbridges in the world. An icy but magical path, delicious, greeted us to the colossal nature of this man-made feat. Definitely not for those fearful of heights. And yes, we did get hit by a blizzard storm. It made that experience memorable and well worth every penny of the €10 to access it. As there was not much hiking or any other activities to be had, we instead improvised, went rogue, and decided to travel where the sun was shining. So briefly into Italy we went, where we witnessed the sunshine and the unique medieval church tower remains, with a name that I will not bother butchering. This bit of sun is what we were craving as we basked in its glory, before heading towards our main destination, Otztal, back in Austria. The mountain ranges swallowing us up as we winded our way between the valleys, before settling at Camping Otztal Langenfeld. Day 3. Well rested, we were lucky to open our doors to clear skies before us. Nearby was a short hike up towards Hängebruck, Langenfeld. Another suspension bridge where we were treated to some of the most spectacular views yet. The main reason we were here in Otztal was to experience one of the coolest European sauna and spa experiences the area had to offer, the Aqua Dome, boasting some otherworldly sauna pools against the backdrop of the mountain ranges beyond. We bathed in its warmth and dried off in its many saunas. Just true relaxation, and for hours on end. You must experience this and the sauna ceremonies for yourself. You'll be surprised. We continued our journey back towards Mittenwald, purely so we could free camp again. Once again, heading into another snowstorm, creating a spectacular display of white. As someone who comes from a country with barely any snow, it is something that I find so mesmerizing and magical, despite it altering our travel plans. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. Day 4. This is pretty spectacular to witness. It's just one of the most beautiful things I've seen, and I just can't stop kind of pinching myself with the fact that we got to experience this in spring. And yeah, I can't believe it. Mittenwald warmed us with its colourful delight in the morning. Before we drove back into Austria to visit the iconic town of Innsbruck, the 5th largest city in Austria. Situated in a vast valley, I definitely recommend checking out the main strip in the old town square. With the backdrop of the mountains, it was such an atmosphere to be in amongst. Nearby was a Swarovski museum, an entertaining multi-sensory experience that delves into the strong grasp that Swarovski has on the world. You'll find yourself spending a couple of hours here for sure. Our journey took us further inland into Austria. So, I thought we were expecting a waterfall walk amongst some greenery, and it turns out we're in the snow. So we'll see how that goes. Our destination? One of the tallest waterfalls in Europe. A short but freezing walk from the car park to the base of the falls will have you soaking wet and in awe of the sheer power and size of this waterfall. There is an option to hike up further, but due to the snow, the path was closed, which was fine with us as our fingers were freezing off anyway. By this point, the weather was turning again, and it was time to settle down for the night in Zell Am See. Another rainy evening, so we're just chilling by the lake, and we're just gonna have a relaxing evening. Have some hot chocolate, hopefully, and listen to the calm sounds of the water. Day 5. Kitstenhorn cable car was a no-go this morning, so instead we drove straight to Berghohenwerfen Castle. For €13 only, this will get you a guided tour, an awesome falcon show, an entry to its many little exhibitions. It was definitely well worth the money, and its historical significance was worth the read. Our last stop of Austria was the city of Salzburg, which sits right on the border of Germany and is home to Mozart himself. We wandered around the old quarter and enjoyed its local delicacies. Who created Mozart's balls? Visiting the museums and churches and really just taking in the beautiful ambience this city had to offer. It was just such a joy to wander around. And, just like that, our Austrian leg of our adventure was over as we crossed over to Bad Reichenhall to sleep for the night, to ready us for the most anticipated part of our trip, Berchtesgaden. Day 6. With absolute clear skies, we tackled the day by heading down to Weissbach Gorge to do a short 2.5-hour return hike starting at Hotel Mittenwald, listening to and witnessing the roaring cascades as you made your way across slippery and suspended walkways right beside the water. We stopped by this meadow here to have some lunch and finally set up our outdoor dining set, just to be able to bask in the sun and enjoy the warmth while we can. Little did we know, we'd also have some company. Nearby, we continued our dose of vitamin D by looping around the iconic Hintersee Lake, situated in amongst 360-degree views of the mountains beyond. I couldn't believe how calm it felt here. And it didn't feel overly crowded with tourists either, which added to its magic. Due to the time of year that we visited, we got lucky with the crowds. But it meant that some attractions, like the Wimbachlam Gorge walk as well as the Eagle's Nest Lookout, was not currently open yet till the summer. So instead, we opted to visit the Rossfeld Panorama, an alpine road where we were treated to sky-high views overlooking Germany and Berchtesgaden on one side and the Austrian Alps on the other side. And furthermore, we had it all to ourselves. It was absolutely phenomenal. As the sun began to set, we quickly popped down to St. Sebastian Church to catch the evening glow of the clouds, before settling at Maria Gern Church. The first day in Berchtesgaden already proving to be quite a show. Day 7. I was up bright and early with excitement as the clear skies gave way to the beautiful landscape before me. The smells of baked goods lured us into the town of Berchtesgaden. before we hurried along to the Konigsee boats. I truly thought we were going to be on a huge boat, but instead we were greeted with these tiny little electric delights instead. As we were the first boat to depart, the waters were calm, the sun just starting to peer over the mountain tops to paint the land in its warm hues. The echoes of trumpets or complete silence were the only things we could hear. When we landed on the other side of the lake, we continued a 3.5 return of Reichenhall hike to the waterfall, which in hindsight should have just ended at the other side of Eibsee Lake, as there was no real endpoint or a path that led anywhere. Everyone just turned around and went back to the lake for lunch instead. Here, the turquoise waters of the lake reflected the incredible mountains beyond, and the warm sun keeping us energized and happy as we relaxed on the soft, grassy meadow. The boat ride back stopped by St. Bartholomew's Church, where you could also grab lunch and continue to explore around, before we headed back into town. Our last stop was probably the most exciting. A cable car up and a sketchy icy path full of slips led us to a view that ended this trip off with an absolute bang. This was the Bavarian Alps. Our journey has now concluded. Through unexpected snowstorms to stunning sunshine, we ventured through the Austrian and German Alps to explore what many often miss out on. It's provided us with the most magical environments to hike and drive through without any crowds, and there is yet so much we still didn't get to see. At least, until next time. Check out my detailed 7-day guide if you want further information on more activities and the details of what you need to know to book your next trip here. I've also included a Notion travel template and a pinned Google Maps as a bonus as well. Until the next adventure, see ya.